Get ready. Helena Hustle is now live. Here, we will showcase successful leaders in business, athletics, healthcare, and all things that make Helena a great place to live. Join Dr. Daniel Bridge, owner of Endurance Chiropractic, as he searches out amazing individuals who are making a tremendous difference in this place we call home. So sit back, relax, and get ready to be inspired with the Helena Hustle podcast.
Welcome back to Helena Hustle. This morning, I'm joined by Dr. Brian Duffy. Brian, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it.
So Brian got me out of the house this fall. We went over to do a hike. What was the hike?
Highlight Peak.
Highlight Peak, yeah. Outside of Bozeman. I was not in shape, but it was such a beautiful hike. We loved it. It was a really great day. I could barely move the next day. I was hobbling around, but we'll do it again this fall.
Yeah, well, we're going to definitely.
Yeah. So, Brian, can you just talk about where you work?
Yeah. So I work over at Helena Pediatric Dentistry and Orthodontics. I'm a pediatric dentist. Been at that office for about almost coming up on 3 years now.
Okay.
Which is crazy to think, but yeah.
Awesome. So, let's see if you can stump me with your two truths and a lie.
Okay. All right. Well, first truth is, actually, I shouldn't tell you what my truth and lies is.
Mix it up.
Okay, we'll mix it up. So one of my favorite foods is squash. Okay. Butternut squash.
Butternut.
When I was a kid, I wanted to be a veterinarian, but not just any veterinarian. I wanted to be like a country vet, like delivering calves and doing things like that. And when I turned 30, the present I gave to myself was I ran 30 miles.
What a generous gift.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, well, where'd you grow up?
Grew up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Born and raised up in North Idaho.
This sounds wrong, but I think maybe you don't like squash.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't like squash?
No, squash is literally my least favorite food. It's like the one food that I still, if it's on my plate, like I gag and I can't control it.
A little butter and brown sugar, nothing better.
No, yeah, I can't do it. We used to get squash from my grandpa growing up, my grandpa Hill, and he lives in Meridian, Idaho, and so we drive down there for family reunions. That's where my mom grew up, and he had this awesome garden. He'd grow these huge squash, and my parents would always bring one home, and like my brothers and I would just hate that. and so we were bad. They'd put it in the garage usually before we'd eat it. And so my brothers and I, we'd go in the garage and we'd hide it. Like we'd kind of like put it in an area where my parents couldn't find it, and we would just hope that it would go bad.
Just pray.
And so a couple times we were successful where it was just sat in the garage in some corner. My parents forgot about it and it went bad. And, they're like, oh, man, that's so sad. Grandpa Hill's squash was bad. And we're just like, hallelujah, we don't have to eat that.
Oh, man.
Anyway.
Yeah, those innate foods that we like and don't like. I watched a video of this baby that couldn't talk. I mean, very, very young. I would like 1 probably, maybe less than 2. But the parents are cleaning out a pumpkin. So they cut the top off and they're scooping out the gooey, stringy seeds, and this baby's smiling, watching, and then all of a sudden just starts gagging. Doesn't even touch it, doesn't do anything, but yeah, starts gagging.
I can relate. Yeah, that's similar to squash.
So what made you want to be a country vet?
Yeah, have you ever read the book All Creatures Great and Small?
Never.
So it's a book about a country vet.
Okay.
And it's a really great book, actually. Even if you don't want to be a vet, I think it's a good read. I probably read that book when I was 12, 13. And I honestly can't remember like what level of reading it is, but I really enjoyed it. And it kind of romanticized, the country vet life and, getting up at 2 a.m. and, delivering calves or checking on, farm animals, anything like that. And so for some reason that age, it just like struck home, and I was like, I really want to do that. And I didn't grow up on a farm. My grandpa had cows, but we didn't have any cows. And so I don't know what, what chord that struck within me, but obviously that didn't pan out. So
that's a hardcore lifestyle. I've had some patients that do that, and then I've had lots of patients who are ranchers over the years. And yeah, you talk about being on call and sleepless nights, long nights. It's a very, like, I really respect those people who do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have enough in me to do
Not
that.
enough gumption. So yeah, at what point did you start thinking, did you slowly drift away from that, or abruptly shift gears?
Yeah, I think I did kind of slowly drift from it. I had we always had animals growing up, dogs and cats and other things. And we had a great, just like, family veterinarian. His name was Bob Erickson. I think he still practices in Coeur d'Alene, actually. And he was just an awesome guy. We really liked him. He was, he coached football, and he was just involved in the community. And so I was like, I want to be like that guy.
Yeah.
And so I think being a family vet kind of slowly took course. But then as I got into high school, there were some different things that kind of shifted my focus or kind of just called my attention to dentistry and just oral health, which I don't have any family members or anything that are in oral health, or even at that matter, at point in time in my life, in healthcare at all, really. And so it really just kind of came on its own, kind of, I guess, everyone organically, I guess you could say.
So you decided that in high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you ever change I guess you didn't, you just picked a major and you stuck with it?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was in high school, we were asked to do like a research project in our senior year, to kind of research careers. And so at that point I was like, well, I'm thinking vet. And then I was like, but I don't know, like, maybe I want to do something else. My dad's side of the family, my dad wasn't, but my dad's side of the family were all into like car dealerships and things like that. And I was like cars. I was like, oh, maybe it'd be cool to sell cars. I don't know. And, but I decided, for some reason, I can't remember the reason, honestly, to just look into dentistry a little bit. And, so I did like a big search, like in this big database of just articles on, problems in the world, what's going on. And one of the articles that came up was that, dental caries or cavities or oral disease is the most common disease in children. I was like, what? And I was like, I didn't even know cavities were a disease, I honestly had no idea. And so as I read into that, it was like, man, this is a huge problem. Like, we have a lot of, dental disease in the world, and the fact that it's most common in children is like not okay.
Right.
And, so I think that's what planted the seed, especially for becoming a pediatric dentist, was, it's like, well, gosh, I can't do everything, but I can do something small to make the world a better place. And if that's it, then I think that'll be really fulfilling, and that'll be something that, I can help kids out and be an advocate for children. And so I think that planted the seed, and yeah, it just grew. Like, honestly, I just kind of stuck with it. And yeah, there was plenty of times where I doubted, what I was doing, especially when I was deep into the chemistries in undergrad, you're kind of like, how bad
do I want this?
Yeah. How bad do I want this? Yeah. It's like late at night, you're studying for a big exam, and it's just, it's tough, but I just stuck with it. And, set the goal and just decided to not, I basically told myself there's no backup plan. Like, this is the plan. And there's nothing I'm going to fall back on. So if this doesn't work out, well, I'm just going to try again.
Burn the boats.
Yeah, burn the boats.
Yeah. I love that analogy. For those who aren't familiar with burn the boats, I don't know who came up with this, but maybe it was Napoleon, but they were...
I've heard of Napoleon or the Spanish conquistadors that went to an island. Terrible people, but...
they had this fear of, well, if we start to lose, we can always go hop on those boats and get out of here. And, the commander said, no, there's no exit plan. There's no plan B. Burn the boats so that that if we don't win this fight, then we're dead. And I think there's a lot of, I don't know, that always gives me some motivation when I think about that. It's like, just make this your plan A. Whatever you want, get it, make it happen. Bet on yourself, and you're going to accomplish a lot more that way. So I love that. What was your degree, your undergrad degree?
So I did biology, and then my emphasis was neuroscience.
Are you glad you did that?
Yeah, actually, I'm really glad I did that. And most people told me that you could do any major you wanted to become a dentist. And so, I looked into other majors like business and other things. But biology worked out great, and I learned a ton. Honestly, I think the best thing about that major is just how to dissect information, and how to dissect research, how to do research, and really learning how, our evidence comes within science. And, it doesn't come from Instagram. It doesn't come from, a quick Google search. It comes from, countless hours of researching, comparing data, doing all kinds of things. So I feel like having that major, it gave me a lot more confidence in how to practice as an evidence-based dentist, I guess I should say.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. And let's hop back for a second. So how old are you now?
33.
Okay. And how was that nice birthday present to yourself?
It was 3 years ago. It was good, actually. Yeah, it was fun. When we were living, at that time I was in residency still, and we were in Rhode Island. And there was this beautiful paved path right by our apartment complex that just went for miles. And it was pretty much always along the water there. Rhode Island's surrounded by water. It's a tiny state. It's just surrounded by all kinds of water. And so, I just hopped on that path and just ran out 15 miles one way and then ran back 15 miles.
Had you ever run 30 miles at that point?
I hadn't. No, that was the longest I'd done is marathon distance.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice. Well, you got me beat. I think the most I've ever run is like 29 and change.
Oh, there you go. You were close.
So, and then you're duplicating that when? This weekend?
Yeah. Well, a week from Saturday. Yeah,
a week from Saturday.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, signed up for a 50K trail race, which this will be my first official 50K trail race. I've done some long trail runs, but nothing within a race form. So that's down in St. George, Utah. It's called what is it called? Red Mountain. I almost said Big Red. It's the Red Mountain 50K. And so we're going to fly down a week from Friday, run the race on Saturday, and then hobble back onto a plane on Sunday and fly back.
Gosh. So why is running important to you?
Yeah. Oh man, I feel like running, I think when I was in high school, I played football, I ran track, short distances. I never ran long distances. But I always liked that. I always had something that was keeping me active. Mm-hmm. And then once high school ended, decided not to pursue any college athletics. I was like, well, I need something. Mm-hmm. And, as most college students, didn't have any money. But one hobby that didn't cost a lot of money was running. Right. You could get a pair of running shoes and you'd be set for, a while to do that. And so I just started running. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I started small, really small. I mean, I'd never run more than maybe a couple miles at one time before that. And so just slowly built up. And when I was in college, I signed up for a half marathon my first year of college and ran that. And I was like, actually, that was pretty fun. But it was insurmountable at the time. Like looking back, that 13 miles just seemed like it wasn't ever going to end. And so for some reason I got a week later, I got the crazy idea. I was like, well, I've already done half of a marathon. Why don't I just do the other half? And so that following spring, I signed up for the Salt Lake Marathon. And I think that's when running kind of started to take shape as something that truly, and probably a lot of people feel like this with running, but it is like my mental health that I think really is better. And I think I like running too, because it's something that's very predictable. It's like I can set a run that I'm going to do in the morning and it's going to happen. Right. A lot of things in our day are unpredictable. And so I think I like doing something first thing in the morning that's very predictable.
And hard.
It's hard.
Get the hard part out of the way.
Get the hard part out of the way. So the rest of the day, honestly, usually feels a little easier.
For sure.
If I've been out, especially in the winter time, I'll get up and it's 0 degrees and I've got to run 8 miles before work. And it's just like, oh, I don't want to do that much. And then you do it anyway, but then you get to work and it's like, okay, I can do whatever is going to be thrown at me today. So
would you say that makes you a better dentist?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
How so?
I mean, my job is fairly high stress. We're dealing with children and children's needs, and it requires an enormous amount of energy to give those kids everything I have. And so if I myself, I feel like if I myself, I'm not taken care of, if I'm not in a good spot emotionally, mentally, all those kind of things, then I won't be able to give what I need to these kids. And so running kind of just puts me at a baseline, I think, every morning. And that way I'm able to cope with any challenges that come with the day. Every kid comes into the dentist a little different. Some kids are super excited and they're like, oh, we love coming to the dentist. And then there's others that are extremely anxious and they're scared and they're really nervous. And, and those are the times when I need to take extra time to exercise lots of patience and empathy and really help those kids feel comfortable and understand that they're in a safe place and that it's my ultimate goal is to make them feel cared for and feel welcome. So the opposite of, dental anxiety, essentially.
Nice. And, there's also the aspect, if you're a healthcare provider and you're asking people to take care of their health, you want to walk the walk, right? You want to be an example of that.
Yeah, that would be healthy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so you decided senior year to become a dentist. How was going through dental school?
Yeah.
and then I guess on top of that, did you always know you were going to specialize in pediatric dentistry?
Yeah. So dental school was actually wonderful. Everyone told me horror stories about dental school, and they were like, get ready for the worst 4 years of your life. I heard that many times, and from people I really respected that were incredible dentists. And so I was terrified. And so maybe it was just my dental school I went to that was really great. But honestly, I loved dental school. I loved getting up in the morning, going to school. I went to the University of New England in Maine. So we were in Maine, which was so cool. And I just loved it. I loved learning. And I feel like that's where I really, really, truly, gained a passion for learning. I wasn't just learning to get a grade on an exam. I was learning because I wanted to be a better person and I wanted to serve people. And so I think that my mindset, I guess, changed. And so dental school was fantastic. And if anyone was going, I would say absolutely do it. Just make sure that you can, you have a plan for your student loans afterwards.
Yeah.
But I didn't always, I always had that inkling that I felt drawn to pediatric dentistry. I really did. And some people told me like, oh, well, it's like a calling in life. So you can't just pick up and do it. And I was like, oh, geez, I don't know if it's my calling in life or not, which looking back, I don't know that that's really true with anything. There's some people have a calling to do things, but I think if you have the right, desires, then what you decide to do is going to be the right thing for you, And so I kind of went back and forth. Like sometimes oral surgery was kind of appealing to me, and doing a long residency, and just because I was really passionate about learning at the time, and doing a long residency and, getting a bunch of extra training. And, that slowly faded as I kind of dove more into the pediatric world. And a couple of turning points I think I had in dental school was I was assigned to work in the Center for Autism, the Center for Autism in Maine. And, it was just a great experience, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed, we worked on desensitization, things with kids that had autism so they could feel comfortable with the dentist. And I really enjoyed it, but also was kind of like, gosh, I'm kind of good at this. Like this might be a talent I have. And so once I started realizing that, I just, full speed ahead pursued becoming a pediatric dentistry and doing anything and everything I needed to do to get into residency. So,
did you call it a fellowship or it's a residency?
Yeah,
the
residency.
Pediatric side.
Yeah.
And tell me about that. How long was that?
Yeah, so that was 2 years long.
That's after you're a full-fledged dentist.
Yeah.
Then you everyone else goes to work and you go to school for another 2 years.
Yep. Yeah. So I went to a 2-year residency, which residency is pretty rigorous. I mean, as most, medical providers will tell you. So I did, similar rotations to what a pediatrician would do essentially. So I was at the Children's Hospital. We were in Rhode Island for that, in Providence, Rhode Island. And so I was at Hasbro Children's Hospital. We worked at like another just regular dental clinic that we saw patients on a day-to-day basis. We took call for trauma at the Children's Hospital and, trauma, infections, all that kind of stuff. So really it just kind of opened, every facet of pediatric medicine to our eyes. Our focus was on dentistry, but really the ultimate goal was to really feel comfortable in pediatric medicine so that we could, when a kid comes in with a health condition, we can say, oh yeah, I've treated a kid that had that before. And that's what residency did. I mean, it was hard. It was definitely, my enjoyment in residency was lower just because of the schedule and, the stress. They put a lot more pressure on you, which is a good thing. Like that's a good thing. But it's not that fun in the moment.
Sure.
But looking back, I'm glad it was that way. Yeah.
What was the schedule?
So we always worked 8 to 5, no matter what. We always had clinic. And so really on most weeks, that wasn't too bad, depending on the day. But it's when you took call. So I took call 1 week every month.
Okay.
And so call was hit or miss. Sometimes you get called in just every day. all times of the night.
On top of your 8 to 5?
On top of the 8 to 5.
Okay.
So if you got called in at 3 a.m., there was no one being like, oh yeah, you don't have to come in today. No,
You're still coming
you
in
went to work at 8.
That is brutal.
And so there was just like some hard, and I think I could get past that, but it was really hard on the weekend. Like when you're trying to catch up on sleep, and then you get called in like Saturday at 3 a.m. It's like, oh my gosh. You just don't feel like you ever caught up. And then you'd get through your week and you would hand off the pager and just be like, okay. And that first night's sleep, like you could just sleep without the anxiety of your pager going off.
Right.
And so it was a good schedule. It was fine. It's just those call weeks could really just take a toll on you.
Do you work call here?
Yeah, technically I am on call. So my phone number is available for patients. Like if it's after hours or a weekend or holiday, things like that. I like to be available. But there's not a ton of true emergencies that like we have to go in for. A true emergency would be like we knocked out a permanent tooth, we have facial swelling, something like that, where it's like we need to treat this right now. Yeah. But yeah, anytime I can save a parent a trip from the ER for a dental issue that the ER probably can't treat, then I'm so happy to do it.
For sure. That's nice. That's a nice service. Is there a piece of advice that you would give to a dentist or an aspiring dentist who's considering pediatric dentistry?
Yeah. Gosh, I feel like I would say if that's what you want to do and you feel like that's what you want to do, don't listen to any naysayers. Just go do it. One time when I was an undergrad, someone that I respected told me that dentistry wasn't a great profession to go into. The student loans had become astronomical, which he wasn't wrong. And so your return on investment was a lot lower than it used to be. It's not the golden profession anymore, which he's actually right on those things. Like the return on investment is lower. Your student loans are much higher. There's different challenges that are facing dentistry nowadays. But at the end of the day, those things don't really matter if you love what you're doing. And when I go into work, I really enjoy serving those kids. I truly do. It brings me a lot of fulfillment in life. And it makes me feel like I'm contributing to the world. It's a talent that I have and I get to use it every single day. And that makes it so worth it. Those other things really melt away very quickly once you're in doing that sort of thing. So I think any kind of aspiring professional that's looking into that, to pediatric dentistry or something like that, is to not worry about that kind of stuff. Just focus on helping kids and advocating for kids, and those other things will take care of themselves. They really will.
Well, good. That's great advice. I appreciate you sharing that. So, Brian, if somebody wanted to bring their kids to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you in your office?
Yeah. Well, you can just call the office, pediatric dentistry and orthodontics. You can just call the phone number and set up an appointment. Or you can reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, sort of, Instagram, things like that. You could reach out that way. But I think the easiest way is probably just call the office. Pediatric dentistry and orthodontics.
Nice. Great.
Yeah. Off Saddle Drive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Brian. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Helena Hustle podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Helena Hustle podcast.